Welcome to OkState Daily, Coach Make It Rain.
Yeah, it's been too long to get on here and say that quick.
Absolutely. Hey, it was a rough stretch of football. It's been a rough stretch of football for, really, to be honest with you, other than a short stretch there in 2023, really for about 4 years now, it's been a rough stretch. 2022, for 3 out of the last 4 years anyway. So it's come to a merciful end. The next era has begun, so hopefully Oklahoma State fans can get excited about that. But make it rain for real this time.
It's like you've had a dog for 15 years, and it's something has needed to be done, but you just haven't been able to do it. And today it was finally over. You know what I mean? Right. Now everybody can move on, not move forward, like literally move on. Like starting an entire new era, because I think anybody with any sense still considers this season, the last 9 games or whatever, still part of the Mike Gundy era. You know, no doubt,
I do. Yes,
and last year we talked a lot about making changes, and there was a lot of changes made, and none of it was significant enough to make any difference whatsoever. It was like make a change just to save grace, but not actually make the change that was needed. And this year, moving forward, now moving on from this era, moving into an actual new era and having some excitement about that. So today was about as, I looked at my son and we talk a lot about football and this and that, what have you. And it's just like how many different opportunities this year that, weren't taken advantage of. I go back to last week, and a perfect example is how many times have we seen it that last week being the example of a muff punt and we kick it out of bounds. Right. We're not able to capitalize on an opportunity or somebody else's mistake. Today, we get a muff punt and the ball's rolling around the ground for 3 or 4 seconds and we don't even get close to getting it. You know what I mean? Taking advantage of those type of plays and being able to make a play in an important situation has been very lacking. And it's just, I think it's just a testament to this roster. I think it's a testament to what OSU football is right now. And it's not where any of us want it to be, and excited about to finally move on and move away from all the talk about whether Mike Gundy should have been fired or not, and those sorts of things, and all those conversations, move on from that and start a new era, and get OSU football back to an exciting brand of football, which you and I have talked about numerous times. That's what we want. We want to be entertained. It needs to be exciting, and none of that has happened for the last, 24 games at least. So anyway, just excited to move on from it and put it all behind us and look forward to what's next.
Anybody you retained as a coach? I mean, you're in the coaching industry. You've been part of state championship coaching staffs, and both. Well, you didn't win a state championship necessarily in baseball. You've been on some very high level baseball coaching staffs, state championship coaching staffs in football. Anybody you retain, or do you not want any of that? Just kind of scar tissue laying around of all the losing we've been doing here in the last 2 years. You want to just wipe it completely clean?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I've heard you and other people talk about Coach Osborne and some of those guys, but the old adage in football is if your head coach is gone and you're doing well, then you promote within. If your head coach is gone because you're not doing well, then you get an entirely new staff. On the college level,
like UNT would go within right now,
right? But college being such a different dynamic because there's so many different pieces involved. Mm-hmm. You're not just talking about one head coach and 6 or 7 position coaches. You're talking about an entire staff. So I don't know. I would think that you would allow Coach Morris to come in and do exactly what we had talked about last year, and bring in his own guys, bring in the people that run. That knows his style, knows his program, has been with him. I would think that you wouldn't. I don't think that there's something that you say that is we want it this way or this way. We want it how Coach Morris wants it. We want Coach Morris to come in and bring who he wants. And if that means everybody has to leave, then great. But if he doesn't have a DL coach that he has in mind other than,
which he does,
you know what I mean? Then I think you look at it from that standpoint. But I don't think you look at it from the standpoint of, we want him to keep X percent, or we want him to keep so many current staff members. I think you let him come in and evaluate and bring who he wants. And probably what's been more impressive, one of the more impressive pieces to me, and it kind of corroborated it yesterday when I read your article, was the amount of people that have been with him no matter where he was at.
Talking about Eric Morris?
Yes. The amount of
no
people,
doubt. The continuity.
Yeah, the continuity, and the people that have followed him all over the country from school to school and whatnot, what have you. That speaks volumes to the type of people that we're going to be bringing in. So I think you let him come in and bring his people, and if there's people on staff that he wants to retain, then great, and if there's not, then that's great also.
So there's a difference between being grateful for making the best that you can do out of a really just unwinnable situation like Doug Meacham did in all these coaches, and then actually thinking, okay, well, they actually did get the best out of what was available to them. There's a difference between those two. So can you sort those out the way you're thinking?
I paused for a second because I want to say it right.
Is this the old Jim Traber asked about Frank Anderson response?
Yeah. Coach, I'm not buying season tickets. I mean, even if you buy season tickets, okay, I can't drive over there with my two sons and watch a ball game for less than $100.
No doubt.
By the time you drive,
not just
there,
walking in and going home. No, there's no way. Yeah.
I mean, drive over there, and by the time you get done with concession, I've got a 6-year-old, and of course, it doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees or it's 6 degrees. He's got to have 7 of those popsicles that they're selling. And then you buy the drink. I'm not buying season tickets and paying $100, at least $100 every game, to watch guys play hard.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. I'm. That's the bare minimum. Playing hard.
Well, that should just be expected.
That's the expectation. Playing hard every game is the expectation. I get so sick of hearing that, yeah, we lost, but man, they sure gave a great effort. That's not what I'm buying season tickets for. That's not why I'm taking my sons to OSU football. That's not why I've grown up being an OSU fan, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, wrestling, whatever it is. I'm buying season tickets to go support a program, okay, that I believe is allocating enough funds to be competitive. Okay. And we're not getting a return on the investment. And that's been the problem for the last 2 years. And that's why you've seen not just OSU, but the domino effect of the amount of coaches that were let go during the season this year. Okay. Is that you can't increase the marketability of your program. You can't increase the amount of investment that's being made into a program or into an individual and get less of a product. Okay. And then the people that you're trying to get the services from, or the people that you're trying to get the money from, go, you know what? Hey, gave it a great effort. No, there's never been more money that's been pumped into athletics and athletes than there is right now. Right. And we're not getting a return on the investment. When I say we, as an individual, as a school, as a program, whatever the case is, I'm not in it. I'm not doing this, and I'm not driving over there, and I'm not giving up my weekends to watch guys play hard.
Right.
That's a loser's limp. Okay. Right. And until everybody gets on the same page of, we're going to continue to make this, we're going to try and raise $2 billion over the next 4 to 5 years on the mantra right now that, man, I'm sure grateful how hard they played. Get the heck out of here.
Right.
Not doing it. You know what I mean? And everybody's going to get on board with, hey, we have a certain expectation of a return on our investment. Like I said, whether it's the individual, whether it's the program, whether it's the school, okay? Everybody needs to get on the same page of that, okay? Is that I want a better return on my investment, or this is the future of OSU football because we can't do it, okay?
It's a Saturday afternoon picnic.
It's a Saturday afternoon. Hey, show up, have a great time. Let's just be the best tailgaters in the country, and what we get's what we get. Okay. And hopefully the sports with smaller roster sizes can be more competitive because we're going to get a bigger return on each dollar that's invested into those programs. You either need to be on that side of it, or you need to have a greater expectation for what you want as a return on your investment when it comes to the football program, because the last 2 years has been junk. It's been junk.
No doubt.
The mere fact, and in the past, I haven't liked really calling out names, but these are freaking paid athletes now. Who cares, right?
Yes.
I can't imagine if you go back to the quarterbacks that were on the roster last year, okay, and the evaluation of who we wanted to keep and who we wanted to let go and how that turned out blows my mind. Okay, it absolutely blows my mind that we can't have better quarterback play at Oklahoma State University than what we had the last 12 games. It's unbelievable to me. Okay, and I have, as an investor into the program, whether it's on the small scale, large scale, doesn't matter. As an investor into the program, as an alumni and somebody that has season tickets, I have a better expectation than what we've been getting from certain positions. As a Division I program that not too long ago was in the Fiesta Bowl. Mm-hmm. And how far we've went from there to where we are today.
Or Big 12 championship game.
Big 12 championship game. That's correct. And I don't remember what your question was. Kind of went on a rant there. But I'm sick of hey, well, we gave it a good effort. Yeah. Hey, the kids really played hard. Or, man, I'm sure grateful for the time they spent here as, this year in a cluster of a season. Well, everybody that's on that staff and everybody that's in that locker room, everybody that's on that roster is part of the cluster. Okay? You've got to own it, right? Now, how many of them are going to be back? How many do we want to retain? All that kind of stuff. That's an evaluation for people that have a higher pay grade than you and I. But everybody is a part and has to own that. Not just certain people. So you can't say, well, we need to throw this person away because of the way the season went, but man, we're sure grateful for the effort you guys gave over here. No, you're all a part of it, right?
Right.
And so are we as fans. And so I've owned my part of it, and I'm gonna continue to be a season ticket holder. I'm gonna continue to show up every weekend on home games and watch it, on TV and listen to it on the radio on the away games. But my gosh, my expectation for OSU football is a lot higher than the old college try.
So let me say this, having heard you say that, totally understood, and that's exactly how everybody should think. Okay, and what I would say to you is that's exactly how Oklahoma State viewed this too. That's the way the Board of Regents viewed it. That's the way Chad Weiberg viewed it. That's the way all the donors viewed it. And that's why they moved on from the winningest coach ever after week 3, despite the fact they knew there's a certain percentage of Oklahoma State fans that will never get over the fact that they feel like we screwed Mike Gundy out of that situation and embarrassed him and all that. They feel the same way you did. So you going through all that, really, to be honest with you, what I'm hearing is you should actually be really proud and excited in the fact that the Oklahoma State admin is in the same mindset that you are. That would be my pushback to you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. And I think that's why, earlier I said being actually excited to move on. A big difference between moving on and moving forward, right? Moving forward is there's been some tragic event that you have no control over, but life goes on, right? Life doesn't stop. The sun's going to rise tomorrow and the sun's going to set tonight. And moving on is completely different from that, in that we're going to this is the stopping point for this era, and we've washed our hands of it and we're moving on. Right?
Absolutely.
And that don't ever want to talk about it again, right? Because there's
no regrets.
You're not going to change anybody's mind, whether regardless of what side of the fence they're on the deal. But I think what I'm most excited about is being able to move on in a direction that seems to be very positive, and absolutely loving the way it was handled and the due diligence that was done in order to make this decision, right? And you're still going to have idiots out there that no matter who you hire go, oh, that's a terrible hire, and blah, blah, blah. They're coming from a small school. Well, everybody at some point in time, from Bill Belichick to Nick Saban down to Eric Morris, has been at a small school at some point in time, whether it was as an athlete or starting out as a GA or whatever the case is, or their first head coaching job or whatever the case is.
There's only been like 1 or 2 professional baseball players ever to skip the minor leagues, right?
Yeah, Pete Incaviglia being one, right?
Yeah, right.
They want everybody to be the Pete Incaviglia of college football and just go from being, a star athlete to being the head coach at Alabama to leaving Alabama to come to OSU. I mean, those things don't happen, right? And so I'm excited about how the process was handled and who was hired and the amount of praise. And the more you read about Eric Morris, I think the more you like, at least in my instance, the more you learn about him and more about who he is and who he's been around and who he's learned from and
why he fits
and the people that followed and his actual long connections or his DC's long connections back to OSU and, actually understanding the Big 12 and actually understanding OSU. Because, Coach, for a lot of years, we've talked about how OSU and Texas Tech mirror each other a lot.
They do.
And
have, not now, but have. Yeah.
Have in the past. And to the point where you could very easily see that, with the other schools south of us that have left the conference went somewhere else, why OSU and Texas Tech could be a very big rival, and be a rivalry game every year. But I'm just excited about the prospect and what's coming and, the excitement that people close to the program or people in the know have about Eric Morrison and people with names like Patrick Mahomes and Baker Mayfield and Cam Ward and what they have to say about the guy that's coming in to lead our program. So I think there's a lot of excitement for those that are willing to actually learn about Eric Morrison and understand what he's about and where he's been and who he's been around and who he's learned from and all that sort. I think those people that have taken that time are very excited about this move. I know I am.
Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time this week on our podcast covering the new coaches. We spent the entire podcast last night covering the new coaches. If you want to go back to that, it's all on there talking about Eric Morris, why he fits at Oklahoma State. So I do want to spend some time on this podcast reflecting on Mike Gundy because, it's definitely at this point turned into a mixed results type of deal. I think if you'd asked 2 or 3 years ago, you're going to hang a statue, maybe even 9 months ago, you're going to hang a statue, probably put his name on the field. You're going to celebrate him, but it's time to move on. I think most rational Oklahoma State fans were in that mindset. I think there's some people, you mentioned it earlier, you have to put this entire season at his feet. He hired the coaches, he recruited the players. This season is on him. I think there's some people that have moved past that and into this guy left this program a lot worse than he found it. He's been a complete prick throughout the entire process. He's going to make OSU pay every damn dime that they owe him. At least we probably think that's going to happen. There's no indication that's not going to happen. He hasn't thanked OSU for anything. He hasn't made any kind of supportive comment like a lot of people do. So screw him. I think there's a lot of people that have moved into that category with Mike Gundy. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I think there's people, a lot more than you think, that actually have moved into that, kind of resenting Mike Gundy at this point. Like, man, I really appreciate what he did, but he didn't do that. It wasn't so much at OSU where he can just run it into the ground and tell us we're all losers, right? And then just leave it like this and me to just sit there and worship you like maybe they would have 9 months to a year ago. So am I being too harsh there? And again, I spent a lot of time talking about the new coaches. I want to reflect on Mike Gundy on this show. Yeah. Am I too harsh there, or where are you at on that?
No, I think, last time we talked, it's been several weeks, but last time we talked about somewhere down the road, right? I think those feelings are too raw right now. You don't make those decisions right now.
Yes, correct.
I think you got to look at it from the totality, and you never want to make your decisions when you're in the lowest of lows or highest of highs. You want to kind of make sure that your emotions are in balance when you're making critical decisions, especially those of putting a name on the field or on the Ring of Honor or whatever we call
legacy type stuff.
Legacy type stuff. I think you got to have some balanced emotions. I think that's why you also see, whether it's the NFL Hall of Fame or Baseball Hall of Fame, it has to be 5 years or 7 years, whatever it is, post retirement. Right?
That's a great point.
Is that we want it to be not based on immediate emotions. We want it to be the totality of the work. And I think 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is down the road, that when you look at the totality of the 20, 21 years that Mike Gundy was at OSU as a head coach, I think people will come back to the appreciation of what happened during his tenure. Whoever was responsible for it or whoever's getting the praise, doesn't matter, right? And then when you throw in the fact of what he did as a player, right?
Yes.
Then I think that takes it to the next level also. This isn't just about how Mike Gundy left the program. This is what Mike Gundy did for the program from the mid
1986
1980s until present day, right? And I think there's been during those times, okay, I think the first question you ask yourself is, was there more good than bad during those 25 plus years? And if anybody says no, there wasn't, then they haven't been a part of OSU football.
Yeah, or they're just so negative they can't. They're too emotional, like you were talking about. Yes.
Right. And so I think that's the beginning point is let's pause, right? Let's get down the road, right? And let emotions temper, right? And let them settle down where people can think rationally as opposed to emotionally. And then have that conversation. And I think once that happens, people are going to come back to the realization of how many good times we had under Mike Gundy's leadership or during any of the totality of from player to assistant coach to head coach and the years of success that we've had there. I don't think there's any question about that. So I think just the years of OSU football, and you're always going to have the people that say, and you've done a very poignant job and good job on that of where the program was when Mike Gundy took over and where it was when he left, and what the influence of Boone Pickens had during the middle of that or at the beginning of Mike Gundy tenure and how much influence that had over the program and who's responsible for that. What people have to get past is it does not matter, right? When it comes to, it doesn't matter if it's public education, it's the corporate world, it's athletics, the person at the top is the one that's responsible, right? Exactly. And if it's good times, then they get all the credit. If it's bad times, they get all the beatdowns, right? And hopefully if they're a good enough person and a good enough manager of a program that they're giving the credit to the people that's underneath them. But regardless of who anybody wants to point the finger at of who should get the praise for the success and who should be at fault for all the defeats, it ultimately lies with the person at the top of the organization, no matter what organization you're at. And I think when you look at Coach Gundy's tenure at OSU, just as a head coach, right, the most successful years in OSU football has been when Mike Gundy was head coach, right? Regardless of who anybody wants to give credit.
Regardless of any variable.
Right? And then you throw on top of that what he was to the program as an athlete before ever getting to coaching. I don't think there's any doubt.
Or as an assistant coach.
As an assistant coach, right. I don't think there's any doubt of the recognition that Mike Gundy should receive, whether people like it or not.
Yep. So let me throw this wrench into you. Let's say that, we're so far behind the 8 ball that we never catch up. And here, whenever the ACC contracts are up in 2030, Oklahoma State doesn't make that final cut. We're not in the final 60, and we're in Division II. And a lot of people, like maybe even me, are like, well, we got put in such a bad situation right at the worst time by a coach that I don't know, what just didn't do the job the last 2 years. We weren't ever able to recover, and because of that, we're in oblivion and we're irrelevant forever. Does that change that for you?
Well, then there's a lot of people be at fault, because if one person is big enough and bigger than the program to actually for that to accomplish, then there's a lot more people to place blame on than just Coach Gundy, right? And
I'm just covering all the different maybe thoughts that OSU fans may have.
This would be my immediate response, because people don't know this, but it's not like me and you rehearse questions. I mean,
no, not at all. No.
I'm giving you my honest answer.
Absolutely, me too.
In my experience with coaching and athletics and everything else, that, and we've talked about on this podcast, is that there's not one person that's bigger than the program, right? Every decision should be in the best interest of this program, right? And if we get 6 years...
That was one of your biggest problems with Gundy, is that he was putting his coaches over the program. At least we felt like that for the longest time, yes.
And it was the process, right? And even the last time we talked, I said, I hope I never hear the word process again. In every press conference, the word process is used. That's just an out for you don't have an answer, right?
Which whenever Doug Meacham started using that probably turned you off pretty fast,
I was done.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about a process, you have to talk about the accountability measure of that process, which is the results.
Where are you trying to get to with that process, and are you actually getting there?
But you can't use process as the answer to both ends of the question.
Right? Absolutely.
It's a means to get there, but it's also the answer of why we're not producing. No, there's the accountability measure on the back end of it. Anyway, the question that you asked, which was I don't remember what you asked.
If we never get past this, if we're if we are so far sunk,
then there's a whole lot more people to place the blame on than just Coach Gundy. If one person was that important to this program that they were able to drive it in the dirt and nobody did anything about it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Which they're trying to right now.
And but hopefully we did it in a quick enough manner where,
Yes.
that there's time to recover. And hopefully if the funds are there, you hear a lot about, the funds aren't there and OSU doesn't have the NIL. Then you have other people say, it's there,
But it's there.
The owners just didn't want to give it until somebody else was in charge of it, and blah, blah, blah. But wherever it lands on that is that you can make this program a contender in a hurry again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, with the right people in charge and maximizing the dollar that's spent. Because of the way that the NIL works and the transfer portal and all the things that we gripe about in the state of college athletics is also going to be the one thing that people are going to give praise to when this thing gets turned around in a hurry, if it does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would say that under the old system of how college athletics worked, I think it would be very, very difficult to get this turned around in that short amount of time that you're talking about by 2030. But with this new current system of the NIL and transfer portal, if we can't get it done in 4 years to be in that top 64 when those decisions are made, then we have bigger problems on our hands than what we think.
I know OSU fans very well. I'm working on my 6th decade as a diehard fan. I've lived in Stillwater or around Stillwater. I mean, I live in Guthrie now, but you might as well live in Stillwater, right? Correct. That kind of deal. So I know how OSU fans think, and I know there is going to be there's going to be a percentage of fans that never get past Mike Gundy. They're a Mike Gundy fan. They couldn't get past Eddie Sutton. I still hear about Gary Ward, this kind of deal. And those people are not going to give the program the benefit of the doubt just because they're such Mike Gundy truthers that they just can't get past the fact that he's not the coach anymore, right? So how do we get those people back on board? What is your message to them? And again, we're not trying to be dark here. We're having the tough conversations. We've talked about Eric Morris ad nauseum this week. We're going to talk about it here again. But I want to have this tough conversation for the final time so then we can truly cleanse this thing and move on, right?
Yeah, I don't know that has to be your concern. Right?
Okay.
I think Chad Weiberg has made the decision that he thinks best for the program. I think he's done his due diligence and went out and got the guy that he thinks can turn this thing around, regardless of whether those people come back on board or not. And I think that's where I've been impressed and where I've really enjoyed watching the process is it hasn't been about let's go out and try and rein these people back in. It's about we're going to go do what's in the best interest of the program. Yeah. And if you are a true OSU fan, you'll come along for the ride, right? And
love it.
The success will tailor that, right? I'm not.
Not to interrupt you. You know what that reminds me of? I think it's why Oklahoma State did get better as the season went on. Because they got rid of the Noah McKinneys. I'm going to call him out by name. I don't give a shit, right? No. This is a hobby, and I feel like I have the right to. He gets paid, okay? Yeah. You weeded those kind of guys out, okay? Sure. And by the time you got to the Kansas State game, which was competitive, you should have won. The UCF game, you should have won. Today, you could have won. Yeah. By the time you got to those 3 games, you were left with only it was a skeleton crew, but you were left with a bunch of guys that actually wanted to be on board. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and same thing with fans, right? And so Chad Weiberg doesn't have time and can't be in the position where he's got to go out and do what is going to please a certain population of the fan base, right?
And
he's got to go out and do what he thinks is in the best interest of this program. And if the results come, right, he's going to bet on the results, right? And if the results come, he's going to bet on his process, for lack of better terms, and he's going to bet on the people that he brings in. And if the results are there, those quiet whispers and those negative Nancy's will come back on board, right? But what's dangerous is if you go out and try and convince this population, which I think is a minority, it may be a slight minority, right? But do you want to go out and do what's in the best interest of the program, or do you want to go out and try and please 30% of the population, taking a chance that you're going to lose the other 70%, right?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
So I think all that being said and done, the tunnel vision was there, which is a good thing in this part, and not listening to the outside noise. And the only focus was doing what's in the best interest of this program, right? And if people are true to this program and people love this program like they say they do, then they will come on board because the results are going to be there because I believe in who I hired that much, right?
Yeah, and you know what gets people on board the fastest?
Winning.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you win, if Travis Ford would have won or Sean Sutton. Of course, I think really whenever the switch happens was with Travis Ford. I think people were still rabid when it was Sean at the helm. But if Travis Ford would have won like Eddie Sutton, made a Final Four every 10 years, made a Sweet 16 every 2 or 3 years, made an Elite Eight every 6 or 7 years, that kind of deal, been in the Big 12 championship every 2 or 3 years, right? If he would have had that kind of success, I think people would have been able to move past Eddie Sutton. So
you don't have an argument.
So really the only thing Chad and the Board of Regents and the admin was left with was, it's not sustainable the way that it is. We have to figure out something, and we have to make a change here. So the change we have to make is, whether you're pissed, whether you like it, whether you don't, we have to go find the guy that we think can start winning again at Oklahoma State, and then everything will take care of itself.
Do you think there were surveys that went out to polling opinions of certain individuals? Do you think that happened? Because I do, right? And
in terms of hiring the coach, or terms of firing the coach?
In terms of the state of affairs.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I don't know if survey's the right word, but there were feelers.
You don't think that Chad Weiberg has enough bullets in his pocket to fire whatever shot he needs to fire in order to explain anything that he's done over the last 6 months? I think there's plenty of ammo there, right?
Absolutely.
And,
he kept it close to his vest too, and only brought it out when he needed it. He did. He's the master at that.
You don't show your whole hand. You might show full right? But you always keep something in your back pocket so that when everybody else is in their gun, you go, oh, what about this?
And then whenever you have that in your back pocket, you kind of let people sink themselves, if you will. Right?
That's correct. And then when the results speak for themselves, okay, now what are you griping about? Right.
Yeah, right.
And then once they gripe at that, then you're like, okay, this is just a pattern, right? All you want to do is complain. We can't be focused on you because no matter what happens, it's complain. Right.
That was like we said last year, you need to change the coaches. They did. Okay, well, then now you can't complain that they changed all the coaches, even though it didn't work, right?
That's correct.
You couldn't complain about that.
Right. And so I don't believe that you can look at it from that standpoint of, I think Chad's done a very good job of saying, here's what our mission is, here's what our focus is, and we're going to go down this road, and we're going to go out and do the best possible job we can and get the best possible hire that we possibly can and fit for this position, and we're going to let the results speak for themselves. And those people, because another thing that I get tired of hearing all the time is the whole loyal and true crap. Yeah. Right? Okay. When you sing that alma mater, right? You don't get to use loyal and true if it's not your alma mater. You don't get to use loyal and true if you're not an alumni of that university. Loyal and true is talking about the alumni's loyalty and to Oklahoma State University. It's not talking about to the 1-year transfer you're getting. Yeah. Right. Okay. It's not talking about to every coach that you've ever hired. They're not alumni. Okay, the expectation for loyal and true isn't the same for non-alumni as it is alumni, right? And so
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think there's people that are pretty damn good fans that didn't actually go to OSU because they could make more being a welder or a plumber or something like that.
But loyal and true still doesn't apply to them. I'm not saying that they can't be loyal and true. I'm not saying that they're not some of the best fans we have, but people are trying to use a slogan that is meant for alumni and the commitment to a university and trying to throw that expectation on people that aren't alumni.
That makes sense. I see what you're saying now. Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to be an alumni to be a great fan. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you have to be an alumni to be a supporter, but don't put the expectation on people that aren't alumni. Yeah. Right, as you do on the people that are alumni, right?
Because they don't have the investment emotionally.
They don't have the same investment, and they don't have the same. They haven't stood up there and swayed back and forth and sang that song as a alumni of the university. It takes, whether you're an alumni or not, whether you graduated from there or not, or you've had people from your family that's graduated from there or not. There's an expectation that people are using that too loosely. Right. And I get tired of them saying, oh, well, is Eric Morris going to be loyal and true to Oklahoma State? Why are you putting that expectation on him?
Who cares? Just win.
Just win. Right. The only time I hope he's loyal and true to OSU is while he's at OSU.
Well, Mike Gundy went to OSU. Did they do the alma mater song after they lost?
That's correct.
So it's all about what?
Right. And speaking of that, okay, I thought it was very good today. And I don't know this, I'm just speculating, that when they did senior day for the band,
yes,
right, they actually wanted everybody to stand up and sing the alma mater.
Yeah.
And my speculation is because for the last 2 years, that senior class has not got to do it very often.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to go
that's
out.
a good point.
They wanted to
That's
go
a
out.
really good point, Coach.
And I thought
because they haven't won.
They haven't won. And so that senior class today for their junior and senior year,
That's a great point.
over the last 2 years, they've got to sing the alma mater, twice?
Yeah.
Okay. Out of the 4 games we've won in the last, how many of them were at home?
Well, and how many people were left to watch UT Martin? That was a terrible game.
Well, but yeah, but the band still played the alma mater and sang it with
That's
the team.
true.
And so I thought that was very cool today that they did that. And I can only imagine that the seniors said, you know what? The one thing that we want is to sing the alma mater because it's going to be our last chance to ever do it. Right. Yeah. And so I thought that was very cool. That's the expectation I'm saying that's placed on the alumni that should not be placed on non-alumni. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying when I'm saying non-alumni, I'm talking about student athletes. I'm talking about coaches. I'm not talking about the fan base. Stop placing the loyal and true expectation on non-alumni that you have on the alumni. Right.
Yeah.
I don't care if Eric Morris is loyal and true to OSU for the next 15 years. I hope that he's loyal and true to OSU for the initial contract that we've invested in him. Right. And if he picks up his bags and goes back to his alma mater, then so be it, and good for him. Right.
It's better for OSU to have to earn their fans.
That's
so
correct.
if fans will, it's like the Chicago Cubs. If fans will show up, even if you're 3-9, okay, then what's the incentive to go 9-3?
Right.
So I love your point here is, if you have to earn the fans, if you don't just hide behind the loyal and true, and instead you have to win to earn your fans, then the hunger and incentive is there to go hire the Eric Morrises and to win to get people back in the stands. That's a great point to make.
1,000%. It's the same thing that people complained about Mike Gunn's contract. Didn't matter if he won or lost. He was still going to have a contract, and it was new every year. You know, what's the incentive to doing good?
What's the incentive?
What's the incentive? And same thing with the athletes these days. What's the incentive if I know that I'm still going to get that paycheck, whether I'm successful or not, or this team is successful or not? I'm still at the end of the day. You know, it's how free agency ruined athletics years ago, right?
Yes.
And that it doesn't matter how I perform year to year. Right. I've got this huge contract. And how many times have OSU fans been burnt or complained about a coach that's got a huge contract and didn't perform? Right. And so anyway, that to me, Chad Weiberg did exactly what needed to be done for this program. And
100%.
He did it in the right way. He wasn't concerned about the naysayers. And
he was not.
He went out and did what he thought was in the best interest of the program, and is betting on the results are going to speak for themselves.
Give Chad Weiberg a grade. And you got to keep in mind, you've been an administrator, you've been a head coach, you've been an assistant coach. So whenever you're ahead of anything, or you're especially in the coaching ranks, the first thing you have to do is you have to evaluate what's the floor here. What are all the things that can absolutely go nuclear wrong, right? So I got to put systems in place to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah. So you kind of start there, and then you start building, okay, well, and then where's the ceiling? And how do we make sure that we don't go below this floor, which is nuclear, and build to get to our ceiling without having the lows, right? That's kind of how you build things. So I say that to say, if we sound negative or if we sound like we have kind of a tough viewpoint, that's how we look at this thing as far as the ceiling part of it, or the floor part of it, and the ceiling. What you're saying right here is that Oklahoma State is, you know what, there's a floor here that we're not willing to go below. I don't give a crap if his name is Mike Gundy. We ain't doing it, and so we're moving on from it. Congratulations to OSU. I don't think that's ever been the case in the past. So let me ask you this. We're trying to shoot to get back to that ceiling, right? And so, give a grade to Chad Weiberg and tell us all the things that you liked or didn't like about the way that he handled this. And B, what do you think? We've talked about the floor and fixing that. What do you think the ceiling is for this program moving forward?
So I think the biggest thing that I can say in how this was handled was, and this is just me speculating. I don't know Chad Weiberg. I've never spoken a word to the guy. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of how it was handled, and in my mind, why it was handled that way, right? Or why Chad was in a position to allow it to be handled that way. Is this wasn't about Chad Weiberg.
No.
Okay. This wasn't about look at me and look at how wonderful a job I'm doing. That's the reason why everybody was hush on the deal. Right? Because it wasn't about Chad. It wasn't about any one individual. It was about OSU and the football program, right? And I think it's much easier to go through the way it was handled and not people not having really any idea what's going on behind the scenes, because there's not a bunch of people out running their mouth trying to make it about them. Right. And so from that standpoint, and
that's where I get frustrated. If you haven't noticed some of my posts, that's where I get frustrated, when you're trying to make it about you and you're getting in the way of things.
Right. And then
that fires me up.
It's about, and on the reporter side of it, it's who's the first one that can leak the information and be right about it. Right. And in the end, none of them were. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a testament in my mind. And in my opinion, again, I haven't had any conversation with anybody about it. It's just the way I've seen this unfold was it was able to move in that process of it be behind the scenes and it not leak out too early, which affects both sides. Actually, affects the side of the person you just let go. It affects the side of the person you're trying to bring in, and it affects the program, right? I think it was able to be handled in that manner because Chad never made it about him. It was always about
100%.
the program. It was always 100%. About the program. It was always about OSU. That's the loyal and true that we're talking about.
Which is why we handled it the way we handled it here, because it's about the program being able to move forward, not about whether OState Daily gets a couple clicks.
Right. So from that standpoint of it, A+, right?
Yes.
And that Chad did what was in the best, and like we've been talking about for the last 15 minutes, Chad did what was in the best interest of the university. He wasn't worried about the naysayers. He wasn't worried about the people that were pumping him up. He wasn't worried about the people that were trying to cut him off at the knees. He had very strict guidelines and tunnel vision in doing what he was in charge of doing, and that was making the best decision for the university in this program. So from that standpoint, A+. From the standpoint of who he chose, okay, again, A+. The one thing that we've complained about on this podcast, right, even to start this podcast today, is the inability of this coaching staff to evaluate talent. And you look at the complaints of the naysayers of Coach Gundy for the last several years, and that he can't recruit. Well, what they're actually saying is he can't evaluate talent, right?
So is that a complaint at this point, or is that a correct observation?
I think 4 and 24 answers that question.
I mean, if you're going to choose, no offense to Zane Flores, but again, these guys get paid, and he's been true. He's been loyal to OSU, so I hate saying this, but the facts are the facts. He just has not had a good year at quarterback, and it's just kind of interesting to me that Milwaukee Smith and Garrett Rangel, if you're not going to have a great offensive line, this and that, it's kind of crazy to me that he got chosen over them to go to that point.
Yeah. Again, I'll pause. That's where I've got better in my 47 years.
Absolutely.
I pause before I say.
I know how to push the emotional buttons, right?
you can't be in a program for 3 years and still be in the situation. I was going to kind of get to that, but what I think in who he chose solved a lot of the things that
absolutely
frustrated. In that, whether you're talking about not being able to recruit well, what you're actually saying, and go back to where I left off, what you're actually saying is not being able to evaluate talent, right? Because you say, oh, that kid needs a scholarship to OSU, and he gets here, he underperforms, or he doesn't perform at all, or you have a senior day where 28 seniors are recognized and only 5 of them you even heard their name before. And what you're actually saying, you're not saying he can't recruit well. What you're saying is he doesn't do a very good job evaluating talent. Well, Chad Morris checks that box, right? And even more so,
Eric Morris, I did that too.
Yeah, you did. And Eric Morris, excuse me. Yeah, that's going to happen.
I'm going to do that a million times.
But yes, I apologize, Eric Morris. And then on top of that, once you are able to evaluate the talent, say, yeah, this guy can play here, being able to develop him to the point where he can actually play here. The guy currently has a kid that never started a game at quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
And he's leading the country. He's leading the country's highest performing offense.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Right.
It is.
And you can't use the names of Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Cam Ward, and the list goes on.
The guy that went to Virginia, Chandler Morris.
You can't use those names and go, oh, this guy doesn't know how to evaluate and develop talent. Okay, it's there.
Well, how about the dude from Shawnee? Why isn't he at OSU, right? I mean,
who's that?
The running back, Hawkins.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. But I think those two things right there, not just how Chad went about it and not making it about himself, making it about what's the best interest of the program, but also who he picked to fill the void of what we feel like has been missing at this program for several years, A+, right? the continuity of Eric Morris's staff, like we've already talked about, A+. And so I don't think there's anything on my end that I would say, here's the check boxes that need to be checked in order for Chad to have done a great job. I don't think there's anyone that Chad didn't check for me.
Agree.
Right? In that, not only did you go out and make it about the program and not yourself, and so that we were able to, OSU was able to handle this in a professional manner that was best for all parties involved, right, including the parties that are leaving. But you were able to go out and get a guy that has been a hot name in the areas where you were deficient, and that is the evaluation and development of talent. So I couldn't be more excited about who we got. I was kind of worried there for a little bit about, some of the names that were popping up. Like, is that what's best for OSU? Yes. But I think Chad done an outstanding job, and his staff, not just Chad. I don't want to make it about Chad. Chad's never made it about him, and I don't want to make it about him. But Chad and his staff and everybody was involved in this process, I think, did a top-notch job of making the decision of what's best in the best interest of the OU football program. And it's just a testament to what Chad and his staff has been able to do with the other sports leading up to football, right?
I agree.
With the basketball program, men's and women's, with Coach Lutz and Coach Hoyt, and the difficult decision he had to make to not hire an alumni that was on staff with the wrestling program and go in a different direction, hire David Ford. You've seen the success of that. So I think
or not just default to Zach Robinson.
Yeah, not just default to somebody just because they went to OSU, right? And so anyway, that's kind of what I was saying earlier, is that the loyal and true is about the alumni to the university. It doesn't always work in a retrospect. It's not talking about the university and loyalty to every alumni, right? Alumnus. And so anyway, I think that the process, who was chosen, why they were chosen, what boxes do they check based on the deficiencies that we've had, I think all of it was A+ for me.
One thing that cannot be questioned is that my dog Barn is very loyal and true to his daddy right now. So he's enjoying the show as we go. Okay, so we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover to this point. So what are you most excited about Eric Morris? I think it's the best coach he could have found, not just because he's a successful G5 coach, not just because he's a good coach, just because, he wanted to be in the Big 12. He knows the Big 12. He knows this, all the recruiting ties. The assistant coaches have ties to one thing I think the average fan doesn't realize is when Eric Morris walks into a field house of football coaches at Denton Guyer, Texas, what type of respect does he carry when he brings in? He's going to knock it out of the park with those guys before ever he even opens a word. He's going to walk in and go, "Hey, boys, who do you got for me?" And they're going to go, this guy, this. They're not going to hold anybody back from him because they're going to want their players to go to his program. So that part of it's big. But what do you like the most about Eric Morris, his staff, anything about that? And what do you think the ceiling is for this Oklahoma State program?
So, and I think I've already said it a couple of times, but I think what I like the most, without knowing those guys, personally, I think just on the surface level and looking at everything, what I like about what has transpired over the last week is the continuity that Eric Morris has had with the guys that are around him, right? And the trust and the belief that those guys have in him, that if he goes from Texas Tech to Washington State or from Incarnate Word to Washington State or whatever the case is, it's been the same circle, right?
Yes.
It's the same circle that has followed him and that he has taken along with him. And again, I don't want to make this all about Eric Morris because it really looks like to me what his success is surrounding himself with people that he has trust in and that those have trust in him, and that this is a package deal, right?
It is.
That you can't just take something that's successful and take a couple of pieces of it away and leave the rest of it behind and think that you're going to have the same product in a different environment. The only way that this is going to work, and this is the way that I see Eric Morris working, whether he does or not, this is the way I see it on the surface level, is that if you want this to work in the same manner it has worked in the previous 3 stops I've had, then I've got to have all the pieces that I had in those previous 3 stops, right? And that it doesn't matter if it's Incarnate Word, it doesn't matter if it's Washington State, it doesn't matter if it's North Texas. There's something that is similar in all those cases, and it's these exact pieces. And if you want it to be successful at OSU, you have to have those exact pieces. You can't take a 5-piece puzzle and only take the 3 pieces with you and still be able to complete the puzzle, right? And so that's what I like about who I've seen hired with Eric Morse and what he's about, and the people, his circle of trust, so to speak, and the people that have followed him or that he has taken along for the ride, whichever it is, right? Whether the people entrust him so much that they go with him, or if he trusts them so much that he takes them along, right?
The answer to that is yes.
Yes, it's somewhere in the middle. It's both,
yeah.
right? And that's what I really like about it, in that we're not just getting one successful person. We're getting a successful, correct, if we want to ever use the word process, right?
Yeah.
We're actually getting a successful process that we're not going to still be talking about 3 years from now and hoping that it's going to work. Right?
Yeah, that's the fit part of it. It's the whole package. The whole package.
The whole package. And that goes back to one of your first questions of who do you retain and who you don't. Whoever can fit that process.
Yes.
Right? Whoever could assimilate into that process from day one and be a benefit to Oklahoma State and its athletes, then you retain them. If they can't, then they got to go somewhere else. And it's not because they're not as good a coach. It's just they don't fit the process. They don't fit the current program, right?
Yeah.
And Eric Morse has a defined program and the pieces that come with him in order for that to be successful, right? And hopefully we get to see that transition over to Oklahoma State. And if it does, there's no reason why Oklahoma State can't be just as successful in a short amount of time as Incarnate Word or North Texas or Washington State or anywhere
we have been in the past,
or anywhere else that he has been in the past, and
or where OSU's been in the past under Gundy.
Yeah, no, I don't. I truly believe when we said, because we said this time last year when we were talking about make a change or be the change, right? Mm-hmm. Is that it shouldn't take you through with you being able to go out and get kids and bring them that match your system and use the transfer portal to do that. That's probably what was the more frustrating part about this year than anything else, was that you actually went out and got the people that you thought were going to fit your process, because you had a new offensive coordinator, you had a new defensive coordinator, and you were able to go out and get the kids that you thought were going to fit those schemes, right?
And you had enough money to do it. He did.
You had enough money to do it and go out, and so that you didn't have to tank another year, right? Yeah. And it was a complete debacle, right? It's like you went and got guys that didn't fit your schemes. And that's part of the evaluation of talent, okay, or the recruiting part of it that people have a problem with. And I think Eric Morse, you check that box with. I think with the right people in charge of evaluating that talent, saying, yes, this person fits our scheme, let's go out and get them, right? And it's going to cost us this much money to do it. I think you got a group of guys that understand each other, that mesh well together, that have been at different programs, using their system, using their processes, using the program that they've implemented, and they've been successful at multiple places all together. They all come here and do the same thing. I think you can be right back in contention as early as next year. I really do. When you have, but it's all going to start with one position.
Next year. Oh, nice.
It's all going to start with one position, and everybody knows this. Quarterback. You've got to have better.
Look at Arizona State.
Arizona.
Yes, Cam Scattaboo was good, but it was the year before they were playing a Sam Jackson type guy, and they couldn't win a game. The quarterback comes in, all of a sudden they're good.
Yep. It's that simple.
It can be.
But it's that quick.
It can be. Yeah.
I mean, you've got a guy that has been. You've got a quarterback that has been. Does he bring his quarterback with him? We don't know, right? I would say that depends heavily on the Hoss Haney situation. What does he decide, right?
And we don't know how good he is. He's played one quarter against
Hoss Haney is, because we've seen him play for a quarter and a half, essentially, right?
Against a horrible football team,
right? And I don't have any doubts that, I think we would all agree that that position has to get better in order for OSU to be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be successful. We're never going to be successful at OSU ever again if we don't get better quarterback play. It's that simple.
No doubt.
You can't be late on throws. You can't be double clutching. You can't be, underthrowing the ball. You can't be. You can't have a guy that's run a 7-yard route. We need 10 yards for a first down, and you throw it at his ankles and expect him
because you throw it too early, and now he's at 6 yards instead of 9. Right?
You can't have it, and you sure as heck can't have it from a guy that's been in your program for 3 years.
Yeah, and then don't throw it in a spot where they can actually run with the ball afterwards too.
Which goes to my next point of the checkbox that Eric Morris meets, and that is developing talent, right? Not just evaluating it, right? It's not, what have we always said about the word potential, Coach? When we say this,
it means you haven't done it yet.
It means you have done nothing yet, right? So if, as a parent, if anybody's listening, which nobody is, but if as a parent, if somebody ever comes up and says, man, your kid has a lot of potential, what that coach is actually telling you is your kid has done diddly squat up to this point, right?
We think that they have the ability to, but they haven't done it yet.
But they haven't done it yet. So we're going to try and draw that potential out of them into actually performing, right? And I think that's what Eric Morris has done. And you've seen it with kids that were underrated coming out of high school that have performed higher than was expected. Patrick Mahomes, John Mateer, Cam Ward, Baker Mayfield, whoever it is, the kid that he's got now. Yeah. So not only evaluating talent, saying, yes, this kid has the potential to do that, but able to draw that potential out of that kid and actually produce on the field is something that he has been very successful at also. So I don't think that it's going to take that long for OSU. I think if you got the right signal caller and you got the right guy calling the plays, then I think it can happen even quicker, right? And the great part about it is Eric Morris is going to come in with no emotional attachment to anybody on this team, and he's going to come in and he's going to want to prove his worth, and he's going to want to shut up all the naysayers who are saying, "Oh well, yeah, but it was at North Texas who they played." Okay. And I think that you're going to see significantly better play at the quarterback position, which only elevates your team. It elevates the success of your program. It elevates the expectations of your program. And it's going to be exciting to watch. And I think from that standpoint that I don't see why within this next year that we don't see significant improvement in the development of players, the type of player that we have. One thing that bothered me today was one of the best plays we had all day was we threw it to our tight end and he ran for about 20 yards or whatever, and coming back because of holding. And 15 or 20 yards behind the play, we get an unsportsmanlike conduct because somebody's over there jacking their jaws while the play is going on. Yeah, it's like, how can you have a more about me moment than that was? Right? Go shut your mouth and go celebrate with your teammate when you're actually driving it down the field with a chance to get within a field goal of the lead, right? Run down there and celebrate with your teammate as opposed to making it about you and running your mouth. And now we just got a 25-yard penalty because not only was there a hold, there was also an unsportsmanlike conduct. And it was just like, man, this is a microcosm. I hope that's the kind of crap that Eric Morris eliminates from this team. And it stopped being about the individual. It stopped being about me. It stopped being about, look at me. You didn't do anything. The guy that made the play, he's back there. The one that threw it, the one that caught it is 20 yards down that way. You're over here running your mouth to Iowa State. You're 1-11. Yeah. Shut up. You know what I mean? What are you jacking your jaws about? You're 1-10. You're 4-21 over the last 2 years, or 4-0
for a conference last 2 years.
You're the worst of the worst. What can you possibly be jacking your jaws about? Right. Yeah. Anyway, I hope that's the kind of stuff, not just talking about the things that we hope he brings with him and the excitement about that, but hopefully removing that from the program as well. And to the testament of the coaches, that kid was off the field that play and he was getting ripped.
It's called losing football.
Yeah, and it is.
Losing football plays.
And I said that out loud from where I was sitting. That's why we're losing football, because of that right there. And not only that.
It's a microcosm. It's a microcosm.
That is a byproduct of a losing team, right? And that you're 1-10, fix me 1-11.
You can't recover fumbles. You lose every fumble that you had, just all that kind of stuff.
You can't.
You can't stop. You stopped them on the ground pretty good, then you can't stop them the last possession they have the ball, that kind of stuff.
A quarterback throws it to a defender, hits him right in the face, you never get a hand. I mean, stuff like that. They muff a punt on their own.
We can't get it.
Week, and we literally kick it out of bounds.
We did. We did to win the game at UCF. It's been a comedy of errors, that's for sure.
And yet today, number 7, you're over there jacking your jaws to Iowa State when you're in dead last place and have no chance of ever getting out of the cellar. with that type of play. It's just like, man, that's. I hope that goes away. I hope it's more about we and not about me type mentality moving forward, from the athletic department down to the coaches, down to the athletes. But there's no reason why this can't be turned around in a quick manner with the right people involved that are evaluating the talent correctly, and once they get on campus, being able to develop them to be successful in their system.
Tough conversation. Okay, so the crowd today, it was listed at 35,000. I do not believe that. I think it was probably 25,000, somewhere in there. That would be my guess. I've been to that place a million different times. Yeah. I said 20,000 out loud. It was listed at 35. However you want to take that, take it. I was there. I've got my video on X, Facebook, and Instagram. It was pretty empty. Fine. Okay. We predicted that all week, that Thanksgiving, the students aren't here. It was supposed to be much colder than it actually felt in the stadium. Supposed to maybe be rainy, that kind of deal. And to be honest with you, there's absolutely no reason to go that game. Most of the players playing probably aren't going to be here next year. None of the coaches are. I mean, if there was ever a lame duck game, that was it. I mean, if there was ever a reason to say, why would I go to that game? I mean, at least, like in 2014, 15, you were, okay, well, we have a young quarterback. We have some young receivers. There were some building blocks to move forward. There's nothing with it. This is the most lame duck game I've ever seen in my entire life, okay? So I don't blame fans for not going today. I feel like the fans did a great job all year long. It's why we got Eric Morris. So the atmosphere of Boone Pickens Stadium, although today I want to give the Oklahoma State fans a standing ovation. I'm just going to give a pass today because it's so lame duck and all that. I want to give an A+ to the Oklahoma State fans. Where are you at on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why would anybody show up?
Yeah,
I think I'm probably being more negative than maybe anybody else that's on your show about it. But give me a reason, to convince me of why I should show up, right? And I thought, really, to be honest with you, I thought there would be more people, because if you say there's 25,000 people there, that means it's half full, right? I didn't see it as half full.
Right.
So it had to be much less than 25. It had to be, in my estimate, it's probably more around 16 or 18 is what I would say. But that being said, I thought on the fan side of it, convince me why I should go. What's the point? It's going to be cold. It doesn't matter. Hopefully we get a win and we can sing the alma mater, but I don't see that there's any chance of that happening.
Which they sing the alma mater after every game. What we're saying is the team doesn't stay for
it.
Yes.
Yeah. But on the other side of it is, I thought there was a chance that there would be more people there just because the excitement of the news of it.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously that wasn't the case. I even said that to my sons when we were walking from where we park and saying, man, it is dead around here. Like there was nobody on campus.
The guy that was charging $20 to park, he was whining pretty good about it. I ain't making no money today.
There was very few people tailgating. I mean, it was a dead scene. It was. So anyway, but no, I whether people showed up today or not was irrelevant, and I think
I agree, completely irrelevant.
I think you hit it on the head of that. The fans have done a pretty good job of being supportive, of continuing to show up and support OSU, maybe not support this team as much as they're supporting OSU. And I think that's where the loyal true is that it's not about the individuals. It's not about one team. It's about the university. And I think this fan base, the majority of the fan base understands that, and they're going to support OSU through the thick and thin. And today, today isn't a
day to judge.
That's not a day to judge either way on that situation. So anyway, it was fun to show up one more time and
I can't ever miss. I went to the Ice Bowl. I've been to all of them. I can't stay away no matter what.
I always go back to, the guys.
I started getting pissed about 3 or 4 different times. Oh, what the hell? Why?
My friends in the past, they used to make fun of me because I don't ever wave the wheat, and those same people who, very well, who went with me. But when I took them in the latest Ice Bowl, when I started waving the wheat because OSU scored a touchdown with about a minute and 30 seconds left to go, and Coach Mick looked at me and said, "We scored too soon." And
no doubt.
And 40 seconds later, Blake Bell takes it down the field and scores a touchdown. And so the one time
the Belldozer.
The one time I waved the wheat.
Oh yeah.
And I've never waved it again. So anyway,
was that the same game that Justin Gilbert? I don't think that was the same game where Gilbert dropped it, was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Had a chance
Didn't
to pitch.
drop it. Didn't drop. That's too much of a word.
Yeah.
We thought he caught it and he didn't. Yeah.
It was a play that probably most on the team couldn't make, but it was one that you expected him to make.
Yeah, because he was awesome.
And he was good. And so it was.
We need more Justin Gilberts, dude.
It's fun to have that and to be able to take my two sons with me, and and the memory aspect of it, and those type of things. Regardless of how the team is performing, we're going to continue to be committed to Oklahoma State University. My daughter goes there, and I'm an alumni and obviously a supporter and a fan, and we're going to continue to be. And I feel like somewhere along those lines of being an alumni and having my daughter go to school there, and potentially one day my sons and that sort of thing, it gives me a little bit of leverage to be able to complain and say, this is what I'd like to see. But it doesn't make me any more right along than anybody else. So, today's a hard pass for everybody, and that I think the fans did a good job. I hope that they continue to see the other sports in the light that they are, and show up for those. I know it's been a hot button of yours for
go to Gallagher Iba and the baseball games.
And baseball guys show up,
yes.
and that sort of thing. So anyway, I'm excited about OSU football, and we're going to continue to support and continue to be loud and proud about who we support, and very excited about moving on from the past regime and era and starting this new era, and excited about what it's going to look like.
We got 1 minute left before we get off of here. I messaged, I would say 25 of the players, to say thanks for staying loyal and true. Thanks for making this a situation, not necessarily that was successful, but it was presentable enough to allow Oklahoma State to be in a position to move on. That was the way that I stated it to them. And for that, much appreciation and much thanks from me as a diehard working on my 6th decade. I sent probably 25 players that. I would say at this point I've gotten 23 messages back. That goes to show you how much the kids cared. Yeah. Okay, like, hey, thank you too for hanging in with us, that kind of deal. This has been tough. All sorts of different types of messages. So I say that to say very impressive young people. They're going to be successful in everything they do. Obviously, they don't just run as soon as things get tough. That's the one thing about the people that stayed. So I say that to say you've been a head coach, you've been a superintendent, you've been an assistant coach. What is your message to Aiden Kelly and Iman Oates and guys who actually did give everything they got and they got nothing out of it this year?
Yeah, my message to them would be, remember what it took to get to that point.
Yeah,
and that if you could have put yourself in a position 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was, when you came to OSU, and somebody said all the hours that you're going to spend in the classroom, and all the hours that you're going to spend in the weight room, and all the hours that you're going to spend on the practice field. If I was to tell you that you were going to be 4-24 over your last 2 years, would you still have worked as hard? Right. And hopefully the answer is yes, because if the answer is yes, the next time you do it, you'll be successful. Right. It's not always going to end in failure. There's two sides of that, is that you can work your tail off and still fail. Right. You can be committed and passionate about a process and still not be successful at it. Right. But
on the scoreboard.
But maybe
yes.
That's the definition of success, right? Whether the scoreboard is actually a scoreboard or if it's, some spreadsheet in a different company.
Everything's winning and losing.
But all it takes sometimes is just a change in environment, right?
Yeah.
And don't give up on what don't give up on what got you here. Don't give up on the process. I can't believe I just said that. Don't give up on what got you to the point of the man you are today, right?
Yeah.
And you're a good dude. You're a well-respected. You're going to be a great father. You're going to be a great husband. You're going to be a great supporter, a member of your community. And it's all because of what you learned here, the failures and the successes that got you to that point. Don't ever forget that, right? And don't ever get to a point where you're not willing to work that hard to achieve the next goal. And so I would say that's what I would say to them is thank you for the effort. Thank you for the work that you've put in. It's only going to be to your success. It's only going to be to your, obviously last 2 years, OSU football hasn't been successful because of those efforts, but you as an individual and what you learned here at Oklahoma State and that work ethic and that attitude that you learned to have while you were here is going to make you individually successful moving forward. So I think that's what the message I would send to those guys. And it's been over 20 years since I was in that situation, and it's crazy to think about. And looking back on what is it that I would have wanted somebody to say to me in a situation. It's not hard to say things to guys that win the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, it's not hard to have a tight relationship whenever you won and everything went your way. Yeah,
but the hard conversations is, what am I going to get out? Why did I spend all this time and effort?
What did I get out of this?
What did I get out of it? And it's not about the immediate gratification, right? It's going to be about the gratification, the rewards that your kids get because of the work ethic you put in 15, 20 years ago at OSU, right? It's going to be the benefit of your wife and your family because you're a successful business person, or you're moving up the chain in your organization or the company that you work for, and you're becoming more financially successful. That's going to be the reward because of what you learned, the work ethic and the attitude and behavior that you possessed while you're an athlete at OSU. So look past the instant gratification or lack thereof and look at where this work ethic and this attitude and this behavior is going to benefit not just yourself, but your wife and your kids down the road. And that's going to be much more rewarding to you individually than any ring or conference title or bowl championship that you ever could have won.
Having said that, to have all that and to win the ring, that's when it gets real good, right? Hey, Coach, great job today making it rain. A little bit darker than probably most podcasts are going today, but I just felt like we needed to cover these very tough conversations one last time, put them to bed. Now we can have fun celebrating the new coach and move forward. I felt like we needed one more show to do that. So, Coach, great job today. Thank you for making it rain.
Yeah, moving on, man. Go Pokes.